All right, so my name is Kelly Faber, and I'm the NCRAD Project Manager, and this is the T2 Protect AD training for the Biofluids. I also have with me two others in the room, and I will let them introduce themselves.
I'm Madeline Kovarek, and I work with the lab, and I'm the cell line lead technician.
And I'm Melina Petkov, and I'm the study coordinator for T2.
Okay. So during today's training, we are going to review GUID, specimen collection schedule, the kit request module, specimen labels, handling processing study specimens, sample shipping, the NCRAD website, and of course answering any questions that you have. Please don't feel that you have to hold your questions to the end. Go ahead and interrupt us and ask along the way as needed. And if you have questions after the training today, here's our contact information. The first phone number and email address are our general NCRAD contacts, the 800 number in the All Study account. The second phone number and email address are the ways to get a hold of Mel directly. And then finally, our website is listed there as well, which has a lot of useful information for you. So first, we're going to start by talking about the GUID. The GUID is the Globally Unique Identifier. This is a subject ID that allows researchers to share data specific to a study participant without exposing PHI. It is made up of a random alphanumeric code, and it does not include any PHI in the identifier. So in order to create the GUID, you will need to create an account at this website that's listed here. Once you have an account, you can go to the GUID tool and create a GUID for the subject. The items that you will need to generate the GUID are the subject's complete given first name at time of birth, the participant's middle name if applicable, the complete legal last name of subject at the time of birth, the day, month, and year of birth, the name and city, the name of the city or municipality in which the subject was born, and their country of birth. You will not be providing us with any of this information. This information will just be used for you to generate the GUID. The beauty of the GUID is that if this subject's in another study at a different site or at the same site, if they give this same information to that study and they generate a GUID for the subject, it will be the same for the same subject, and it's a way for us to know which subjects are in multiple studies. So this is the specimen collection schedule. At the screening visit, you will be collecting CSF. We'll go into much more detail about this later. This is just a brief overview. At the baseline visit, there will be a 10 ml lavender top EDTA tube collected that will be used for plasma and buffy coat. There will also be a 6 ml serum red top tube that will be for serum collection. At weeks 4, 8, and 12, you will be collecting a 6 ml lavender top tube for plasma PK. At week 24, it's the 6 ml red top tube for serum again, a 6 ml lavender top tube for plasma PK, and the CSF sample. Then finally, at week 48, it's everything together. The 6 ml serum tube, the 6 ml plasma PK tube, the 10 ml lavender plasma and buffy coat sample, and the CSF collection. So in order to collect all these samples, you will need to have kits on hand. This is our kit request module link, and you will go here to request the kits that you need. An initial stock of kits will be delivered to sites prior to your designated start date. Kits and individual supplies are then available to order from our kit request module after that. The supplies that you can order on our kit request module are the blood collection kits for baseline, week 4, week 8, week 12, week 24, and 48. A CSF kit that, in which you can choose the LP tray of 22 or 24 gauge, a blood supplemental kit, a CSF supplemental kit, the frozen shipping kit, and individual supplies. So here's what our kit request module looks like. You can choose your site, and once you choose your site from the drop-down list, the coordinator name and contact information will populate on the screen. We ask that you please look that over, make sure everything looks correct, and if it does, just let us know by marking yes in all of these boxes. If anything looks incorrect, just go ahead and click on the no. Then it will pop up with a box for you to type in the correct information. And then just please let us know if that information is something we should use just for that one kit request, or if it's what we should use for all kit requests going forward. If it's for all kit requests going forward, then we'll make sure to update the REDCap module so that it has that new information for you next time. Once you have verified all the contact information is correct, then you can work on selecting the kit supplies that you need. So the first thing you'll do is put a number in the box next to the type of kit you need. So in this example, there's a 1 here because 1 baseline blood collection kit is required. Once the number is put in this box, then the contents of that kit appear here at the bottom of the screen. You can select as many types of kits as you need, and then all those contents appear below. And if you need individual supplies, then you just mark yes right here, and all of the individual supplies that are available will appear. We ask that you use the box below that to let us know how many of those individual supplies you need. And then there's also a comments box here so that you can give us any special instructions that you have for this particular request. Say, for example, you plan to go on vacation next week and you want us to delay shipping the samples until after, shipping the kits until after you return. That's a good place to let us know. Alternatively, if you need something rushed, then you can let us know that there as well. We just hope that doesn't happen every time. Once you have everything marked in there, then you can click on the Submit button, and a notification will automatically be sent to us here at NCRAD, letting us know that you have requested kit materials. We will then review your kit request and send you an email back confirming that we reviewed your request, we've received it, and if we happen to have any questions about the request, then we will ask you that at that time. So just to review, each site is responsible for ordering kits and maintaining supplies on hand for your scheduled participants. We don't know who's coming when for your visits, so we have to rely on you to request what you need when you need it. In order to request kits, please visit this website here, and this will also be listed in the manual. And then please allow 2 weeks for your order to be processed and delivered. So we ask that you do plan ahead just a little bit to make sure that you have what you need for your visit. So before we go into specimen labels, does anybody have any questions about the kit request module?
No.
Okay, great. So the specimen labels. There are 3 types of labels that are provided in the kit: the kit number label, the site and ADCS ID label, and the collection and aliquot tube label. So this is what the kit number label looks like. It's used to track patient samples, and it helps provide a level of quality assurance for us. This label is placed on the biological sample and shipment notification form that's used for the blood samples that are collected, as well as the CSF sample and shipment notification form. You'll also put one of these labels on the outside of the cryo box that's going to be holding the cryo vials that you will be storing and shipping the samples in to us. One thing we always like to point out is that the kit numbers will be different between the blood samples and the CSF samples, and we'll explain that a little bit more in a bit. So the second label is the site and ADCS ID label. This label actually requires you to do a little bit of handwriting on it. You'll need to fill in the site number and the subject ID, which is the ADCS ID. We will provide you with 4 Sharpie markers in your initial kit supply to do this writing on these labels. We ask that you use those fine point Sharpie markers to write on here, and also please fill in the labels before you adhere them to the tubes. It's a lot easier to write on a flat surface than a round surface. These labels then are placed on the collection tubes only. So they're placed on the red top tubes and the 2 different lavender top tubes. And finally, our collection and aliquot tube label. This label is the busiest of them all. It has the specimen number at the top. This number is unique across all the different samples that you'll be sending to us. No 2 will have the same number at the top. The next item on there is the study name. Then you have the sample type. So the different options for this study are they'll either say plasma, buffy coat, serum, plasma PK, or CSF. And finally, it has that kit number on the bottom. And when it's plasma, buffy coat, serum, or plasma PK, that kit number will be the same across all labels for the same subject at the same visit. And the CSF label, though, will be different with that kit number. So here's what it looks like to label the blood collection tubes. These are the 10 and 6 mil EDTA tubes and the serum red top tube. So we ask that you please put the aliquot and collection tube label at the top with the barcode near the cap. This allows us to scan the tubes allows us to scan them when they arrive here when we are accessioning the samples. And then the second label that you will put at the bottom of the tube is the handwritten site and ADCS ID label. The cryo vials are a lot smaller and only have 1 label on them, and that's the collection and aliquot tube label. And then here again, we ask that you please place the barcode near the cap. Again, it helps us scan the samples and when we're signing them in here at the lab. And these will be on the plasma, buffy coat, serum, plasma PK, and CSF aliquot. So just a few reminders about specimen labels. Please label all collection aliquot tubes before cooling, collecting, processing, or freezing the samples. Label only 1 subject's worth of tubes at a time to avoid mix-ups. Wrap the label around the tube horizontally, and the label position is really important for all tube types as we have described in the previous slide. And make sure the label is completely adhered by rolling it between your fingers. So before we get into handling and processing study specimens, does anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Maddie then.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie, and I'll be going over the handling and processing of study specimens, and at the end of the PowerPoint I'll also be going over shipping and the sample notification forms. So to start, we do have a few things that you guys will need to have on site that we do not provide for you. So for blood collection and just general safety equipment, you'll need any PPE, lab coat, safety glasses, gloves, all that. You'll need tourniquets, prep pads, gauze pads, needles, bandages, sharp spins for the blood collection. And then for any processing and storing, we ask you to have a centrifuge that's capable of 2000 RCF with refrigeration to 4 degrees, access to a -80 freezer, access to a wet ice bucket and a wet ice machine. So this schematic is going over the 3 blood tubes that are collected at different visits for this study. The first one you'll be collecting is the serum tube. It's a 6 mil red top tube. The second one will be a EDTA lavender top tube. This one is for plasma PK. It's a 6 mil tube. And the last tube type you'll be drawing is another EDTA tube, but it's a 10 mil tube just for plasma and buffy coat collection. A really, really important note before we get started is the processing and draw order. We do ask, in order to ensure the highest quality samples are being collected, processed, and stored, it is really, really important to follow the specific collection, processing, and procedures detailed in the following slides. Please, please, please read the following instructions first before collecting and processing specimens, and have all your supplies and equipment ready and prepared prior to drawing blood for the first time. Please note, we do ask you to centrifuge at 4 degrees a few times, and it can take upwards of 30-ish minutes for a centrifuge to cool, so please plan accordingly. And this is also another really important part, is the draw order for the blood, the samples. We first ask you to draw the serum first, that 6 ml red top tube, and then the 6 ml plasma EDTA tube for PK analysis, and lastly, the 10 ml EDTA tube for buffy coat and general plasma. So these are a schematic of what your aliquots will look like after processing. You'll see that we have a lavender top tube that goes with the plasma that matches the parent tube blood cap. That one's also lavender. So the aliquots will be lavender. Next will be serum. The serum gets a red cap that also matches the parent tube. CSF gets an orange cap. And any CSF that goes to any local labs will get a yellow cap. Any residual, whether it's plasma, serum, or CSF, will have a blue cap, and the buffy coat collection will go in the cryovial with the clear cap. So for serum preparation, we do ask that all blood tubes be stored at room temperature prior to blood draw. Don't stick them in the -80, don't stick them in an incubator, just keep them at room temperature. Some of them do have preservatives that may not work if the tubes are not stored properly. Also, before draw, label these tubes with the pre-printed subject labels that Kelly just went over before drawing. During collection, make sure that you have allowed the blood to completely flow, and ensure before you take the tube away that the blood flow is completely stopped. And immediately after the draw, you'll want to invert this tube. Gently invert 5 times to mix the sample. So for these red top serum tubes, we do ask you to allow the blood to clot for 30 minutes before any processing is done. You can just set it upright in a wire rack on the counter for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes is up, you can invert the tube, and you can generally feel the blood clot in the tube, and you invert it. I do kind of give some advice that if you invert it and it's not there, you can let it set for another 5–10 minutes. Try it again, see if it's there. And you can let it set for with up to 60 minutes, but at that 60 minutes of time after draw, we do ask you need to centrifuge it at 2000 Gs, 10 minutes at 4 degrees Celsius. So once the serum tube has been spun down, you'll have your serum on top, and we ask you to aliquot the serum into 2 1.5 ml aliquots in those red cap cryovials. We do ask you to label the cryovials with those pre-printed labels Kelly went over. Aliquot, keep any residual volume of serum that you have, and make sure to document the specimen number and volume on the sample and shipment notification form. And ensure that the serum samples are spun, aliquoted, and frozen within 2 hours of collection. Then you'll be storing the serum aliquots at -80 until shipment. And again, the serum is aliquoted at 1.5 ml. And this is a picture of what the serum tube will look like once it's been spun down. You'll see the serum on top and the red blood cells, white blood cells, platelet clot on the bottom. And then you'll have 2 options. You could have 2 1.5 ml red cap cryovials, or 1 full one and 1 residual, depending on the original volume of the tube. For plasma, it's the same thing with the tubes. Keep them at room temperature, label them before draw. After collecting the blood, we ask you to gently invert the tubes 8 to 10 times to mix that EDTA preservative with the blood. After drawing the plasma, the plasma tube, we ask you to put it on wet ice until you can centrifuge it. Once you're capable of centrifuging, centrifuge at 2000 Gs for 10 minutes at 4 degrees Celsius. And this tube, just like the serum tube, must be spun, aliquoted, and stored in the -80 within 2 hours of collection. For this plasma PK tube, we're asking you to aliquot at 0.5 ml aliquots, not 1.5 ml. So that means you'll get more aliquots. You'll be expecting about 5 to 6 aliquots. And these go into the lavender top cryovials. We ask you to store these at -80 until shipment. And again, if you have any residual plasma left over, to indicate the specimen number and the volume of the residual on the sample shipment notification form. And that will go into the alpha with the blue cap. Again, this is a schematic of what a plasma tube looks like once it's spun down. You have your plasma on top, your buffy coat layer, and then your red blood cells. And you'll see that you'll be aliquoting the plasma into 1/2 ml aliquots into the lavender top tubes. And again, this is for the plasma PK tube. The other kind of plasma we're collecting is in that 10 ml EDTA tube. The collection part is the exact same. After draw, invert, place on wet ice, centrifuge, and aliquot and freeze within 2 hours of collection. And depending on the visit and when this tube is drawn, you'll also be collecting the buffy coat step, the buffy coat from the tube. So I recommend after spinning down to aliquot the plasma, and the aliquots of plasma will be 1.5 mils, not 1/2 mils, like the plasma PK. You'll aliquot 1.5 mils, keep any residual. Again, to note the specimen number and volume for the residual on the sample shipment notification form. And then you'll be collecting the buffy coat layer into the clear capped cryovial. And this is an example of what we'll be looking for once the plasma tube's been spun down. You have the plasma, buffy coat, red blood cell layer, aliquot into potentially 3 1.5 ml lavender top cryovials, and any residual into the blue cap. And then you'll be collecting the buffy coat, which goes into the clear capped cryovial. And if you've never collected a buffy coat before or need any extra help or resources on what to look for when collecting a buffy coat, just let us know and we can provide you with a training video or information about that. I do always say that when you collect a buffy coat, it is more than okay to have any residual plasma or red blood cells that may be collected with it. Those all get washed away during the DNA extraction step. So having any extra red blood cell contamination in there is not a big deal. So that's all of the blood collection. Does anyone have any questions over the blood collection, processing, and storage? Okay, I'll move on to CSF collection and processing. For CSF, it's an important note before we get started that fasting prior to the LP is at the discretion of your site's PI. However, it would be great if efforts could be made to keep the conditions under which the LP is performed, like fasting time of day, if you could keep those conditions consistent for each LP performed on the participant. So every time point they come in to collect CSF at, just keep those variables the same. So for CSF collection, before you get started and before you perform the LP, we ask you to label the cryovials with the pre-printed subject labels and chill the cryovials on wet ice. So these guys will be the orange capped cryovials and the residual cryovial with the blue cap. At collection, collect an initial 1 to 2 mils of CSF, and if this is bloody, continue to collect the CSF until it is cleared of blood. And this will be collected into a 15 ml tube. And once the CSF is not bloody, transfer the first 1 to 2 mils you have into the yellow cap cryovial. This will not be sent to us. This will be sent to a local lab for testing. Once you have filled the yellow cap cryovial, then we ask you to collect another 15 mils of CSF into a new and sterile 15 ml conical tube. Immediately after collection, place upright on wet ice until you can get it to a centrifuge. And we do ask within 15 minutes of collection of the CSF that you centrifuge a sample at 4 degrees for 10 minutes with the break off. After it's been centrifuged, use a clean transfer pipette and aliquot the CSF into 1/2 ml aliquots into the orange cap cryovials that you pre-labeled and pre-chilled before collection, and then record any residual volume and aliquot number into the blue cap cryovial and document that on the notification form. Once you're done aliquoting, we ask you to store the CSF aliquots at -80 until shipment. So does anyone have any questions over the CSF collection? So I'll start to go over sample shipping. So all the samples that will be shipped to us are going to be shipped frozen. We're not going to be expecting any ambient samples. So the first samples we'll be expecting will be the serum aliquots that we went over earlier. There'll be 1.5 ml aliquots in the 2 ml cryovials with the red caps. We'll be expecting up to 2 of those. We'll be expecting plasma PK aliquots. Those are again 0.5 ml aliquots in the 2 ml cryovials, and we'll be expecting up to 6 of those. We'll also be expecting another plasma type, 1.5 ml plasma aliquots from the 10 ml ADTA tube in the 2 ml cryovials. We'll be expecting up to 4 of those. And any buffy coats we have, we'll be expecting around 750 microliters of a buffy coat in the 2 ml cryovial with the clear cap. We'll be expecting 1 of those. And then for CSF, we'll be expecting 0.5 ml aliquots in the 2 ml cryovials and up to 30 of those in the orange cap cryovials. Frozen shipping, we ask you only to perform Monday through Wednesday only. We ask you not to ship on Thursdays just in case anything happens and it gets held over the weekend. And we just want you to ship Monday through Wednesday just to have a little safety net on the FedEx shipping. So we do ask you to batch ship samples to us. And this could mean batch shipping samples for each patient from different visits. So in this first cryo box schematic, you can see that we have 3 different visits in 2 boxes. But we do ask you to place the kit number label from each different visit on the outside of the box. So you'll see on the box on the left that only has 1 visit in it, which is screening CSF. It only has 1 kit number label. But in the box on the right, that has 3 different visits in it. So we have 3 different kit number labels on the top of that box. This really helps our accessioning team to know what's in the box and how to tie it to each visit. So it's really important to put the right kit numbers according to whichever visits you have in the cryo box. So you'll see here we have the screening CSF in the left box and continuing overflow into the right. The right box also has baseline serum plasma buffy coat, and it also contains in the bottom row the week 4 plasma PK. Not pictured here is that the yellow cap cryovial, which is the CSF aliquot. That is not being shipped to NCRAD. We do not provide a label for that because that will go to a local lab for testing. And again, it's really important to only include 1 subject per box. We ask you not to mix subject samples in cryo boxes. The next kind of cryo box you can see is a combination of week 8 and week 12 plasma PK. That'll again have 2 kit numbers because there's 2 visits in there and only 1 subject in the box. Another one is detailing week 24 CSF, serum, and plasma PK. Again, we have 2 different kit numbers because we have the kit number for the CSF and the kit number for the blood collection. Again, only 1 subject per box. And the last kind we have is week 48 CSF, plasma, buffy coat, serum, and plasma PK. When you are ready to ship to NCRAD, we will be expecting the CSF, serum, plasma PK, plasma, and buffy coat aliquots. Can all be combined into 1 box as we just showed you. Be sure to, again, adhere the necessary kit labels on the outside of the lid of the cryo box, and then you'll be placing that cryo box into 1 biohazard bag. When it comes to the shipping kit, we ask you to put about 2-ish inches of dry ice in the bottom of the box, and then each styrofoam shipper can hold upwards of around 5 cryo boxes, and then each shipper must be completely filled with dry ice, and that'll be about 45 pounds for 20 kilograms of dry ice. We do ask you to fill the box fully, like I kind of mentioned earlier, in case it gets held anywhere or there's any weather storms, snowstorms, and it has to sit in an airport for a couple days. It's really important to have a lot of dry ice in there so the samples don't thaw during shipping. The outside of the box will need the Class 9 dry ice label, and this label should not be covered with any other stickers or obscured in any way, and it must be fully completed or the shipping carrier might reject or return your package. It has happened before, so just be diligent when filling out this label. You will need to put the net weight of dry ice in kilograms in the bottom left of the label, your name and address on the bottom left, our name and address on the bottom right, which we've provided. And we do ask you to schedule FedEx and send the biological sample and shipment notification forms to us ahead of shipment. You can fax or email this to us at the provided number and email. And it is important to make sure that all personnel who are responsible for shipping are certified in biospecimen shipping. It is your responsibility to ensure that appropriate training has been provided. And we have given you some resources if you need to look into more training or shipping. We also ask that you're trained in the UN 3373 Category B training. It's recommended that you have a record of your staff's training and the date of instruction, and that the training records are made available upon request, and that we've also provided the website of the DOT. You can find more information there if you need it. So also going on the outside of your shipper will be the FedEx air bill. Again, this is something that needs to be completed, fully completed, or again, they might reject or return your package. So in the top left corner, you'll be asked to fill out your name, address, and phone number. In the bottom right-hand corner, you're asked to fill out the dangerous goods for dry ice. So you'll need to mark that, yes, I have dry ice in this package, and this is another place to put the weight of dry ice in kilograms. Right below that will be the FedEx account number, and this will be pre-filled when you're putting it, when you're filling it out. And the sample shipment to NCRAD should be paid for by the T2 grant at UCSD. Does anyone have any questions over shipping before I go over the sample and shipment notification forms? Okay. Again, a copy of the sample form must be emailed or faxed to NCRAD prior to the date of sample arrival. We do ask that you include sample forms in all shipments of frozen samples. And again, we've provided our email and fax number for you to send those to us. So this first form is going over blood collection. This will be for serum, plasma PK, plasma, and buffy coats. In the top portion of this form is just general information, phone number, FedEx tracking number, date. The box below it will be a little bit more in depth, going over the patient information. So the GUID, this is another place to put the kit number barcode of the blood collection, your site ID, information about the patient if CSF was collected, and then more information on the blood collection in the box below that. The bottom half of this form is going over specifics of the blood collection processing. We ask you to record, the time of the centrifuge and the duration of the centrifuge, the temperature, the volume that you aliquoted, how long it took you to aliquot. Any residual volumes and specimen numbers can be denoted here. Storage and temperature of the freezer, if you collected the buffy coat, what the volume of the buffy coat is. We ask you to record all this information for the serum, plasma, and buffy coat collection from the 10 ml EDTA tube, and also for the plasma PK aliquots from the 6 ml EDTA tube. Again, this is a really great place to mark any deviations in protocol processing that happen. If a sample is hemolyzed, or a sample with low volume, or really anything out of the ordinary, you can go ahead and write that in the notes section, and we can make sure to let our staff know that if anything out of the ordinary is to be expected. And this, the CSF sample and shipment notification form, is very similar to the blood processing, except it's asking questions about CSF instead. So again, this is a place to put the kit number barcode for the CSF collection, any information about the patient, to indicate what the collection process was for CSF, whether it was by gravity or aspiration, any fasting information, time of the day, and information about the aliquoting, temperature of the centrifuge, freezer, how many aliquot, the residual volumes, and again, a notes section where you can denote anything strange that happened during the day. So we do have holiday closures. We've provided the list of holidays here, and we also have our website where you can find more in-depth explanation on our holiday closures. And we will have a T2 Protect website up and running. It's under construction. And once it is completed, there will be training videos, the manual procedures, and sample forms to be available for reference. And we'll be sure to let you know when it's up and running so you can have these resources available. So do you guys have any questions before we finish up for the day?
No? It was a quiet group. We'll send out a copy of the slides and send out a copy of the manual of procedures as well. And so you can be expecting your kits soon. And so reach out if you think of any questions afterwards. We are very happy to help and always willing to answer any questions you have. All right, I think we'll end there then. Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate you joining.
Thank you.